Welcome to the How to Human podcast, where we explore how to engage with the human experience and the world as we know it, exploring the art, science, and soul of being human. I'm Sean,
I'm Josh.
and today we'll be discussing how to get curious. So, in our last podcast, we talked a little bit about curiosity. So, I thought today we might go a little deeper with that by talking about a concept that I refer to as serious playful curiosity. What are you feeling about? What are you curious about today, Josh?
For me, a real curiosity I have is, uh, you had mentioned really wanting to dive into curiosity for this episode. So, what was really alive, or what was really like juicy about wanting to dive into curiosity this week?
So, serious playful curiosity for me, it's like a mantra. Um, it kind of grounds me. It brings me back to my sense of experience in a meaningful way, and it does that in a way that So this story has an origin story. There's an origin story here. Um, this mantra started off as a practice, and the practice started off as an observation. So I was going through some really bad stuff in life a few years ago, COVID times. I think probably most people can connect with that. And while I was doing that, I had also just had my first kid. He was, 1.5, something like that. And he was really an advanced kid in a lot of ways. So he was playing with action figures early. And he was playing with this Batman action figure. And as he was, like, he would come up with little stories and stuff. And he was like, I'm Batman. Um, and at the time, I was getting into mindfulness and meditation and all these different things to kind of like pull myself out of this funk. But as I'm watching, and I had watched my kid a lot to kind of learn from him how to be a human. And he taught me a lot of the lessons that I'll probably be sharing in this podcast. And one of them is when he was playing Batman. So he's playing Batman. He's like, I'm Batman. And Batman, is fighting bad guys. And there are highs and lows to Batman's story. And he's taking this very seriously. Like, he is serious about his play. He's in it. And in those moments where he's playing, he is Batman. So like if I jump in and play with him, he's Batman and I'm whoever I am, or maybe I'm multiple people so he can just be Batman, kind of the center of the story. But he's Batman and it is very serious. Like if I walked up and knocked Batman out of his hand and said Batman's dead, that would be that would be devastating. Like he cares. He's very serious about this being Batman in this moment. So I'm watching him play Batman. And as I'm watching him, and I've been doing all this reflecting on mindfulness meditation and sort of elevating one's awareness by bringing their sense of self to sort of just a point of observation, being able to observe your thoughts. We'll go deeper into that later. Um, as I'm watching my son play with his Batman toy, I'm noticing that he's being very serious about it, but he's also being very playful with it. Like, he doesn't mind experimenting with what's gonna happen with Batman next. He doesn't always really know what's gonna happen with Batman next. He's just kinda like he's playing it out. He's feeling it out. And so he's being very playful with being Batman. Even though he's Batman, he's being playful with being Batman. I'm realizing, like, how is he how is it that we do this as kids? Um and then when you bring another person into that equation, like, it also elevates the sense of curiosity. Like, he's kind of letting the story unfold even by himself, and so there's always this sense of curiosity,
Mm,
especially I think it's, like, innate for kids.
mhm.
Uh, but when you bring another person into the fold, then there's a lot more curiosity, like, how are these different characters gonna interact? And so when I get to play with them, then the curiosity heightens even more. So I'm sitting back and I'm reflecting on this. He's taking it very seriously, but he's still being very playful with it. And he's getting really curious about it. And the whole time that he is Batman, and he is Batman during this, he's also Jackson. Like, he's also my son. He's both. He is both the character who's having all of these highs and lows, like he's winning and losing, he's fighting, he's falling in love and falling out of love, but he's also the kid playing the character. And it just struck me in that moment, all of the stuff that I'd been learning about mindfulness and taking the seat of the observer, that here we are playing the role of Josh and Sean, you know? And we sometimes we get really lost in the role, and maybe some people are even raised to just be fully lost in it all the time. But we also could maybe pull. I was like, what if I pulled back and allowed myself to play with this, I'd be playful with this idea of Sean as a character, the same way that Jackson is being playful with this idea of Batman. What if I played with Sean's story and who Sean gets to be in the story? What if I allowed myself to explore that a little bit more with a sense of kind of pulling back and detachment of like a third person perspective, being able to view what's going on in Sean's story? And do I like that? And do I want to play with that a little bit more? And like, what could I get curious about? How could that really come to life? And so it led me to a lot of curiosity about my own life and my own story and this whole idea of how I'm playing it out. And that curiosity lent itself to playfulness. And again, I realized like he's taking this play seriously, so I can do that too. Like I can be serious in my play with Sean. So for me, Serious Playful Curiosity started there. Like that's the origin story. And then it evolved into a practice of me pulling back and just regularly being like, uh, if I'm playing the character of Sean, if I am doing that just like Jackson was being Batman,
Mhm.
um, what do I like about the way I'm playing with that right now? What do I not like about that? Like, what's interesting about the story, even the things that I don't like? What's interesting about it? And is there something I might want to do to make it more interesting? Or is there something I can experiment with or play with, get curious about? Yeah.
What was it like to see like your kid really exhibit this naturally and see that reflection of like, oh, I can just do this too? When was it just an observation, or was this like, oh, I'm gonna take this and apply it and use it?
In the moment, it was a weird aha moment. Um, where like I was watching it and I realized this could be a practice, and then I was kind of doing it at the same time and pulling back and being like, it's like the hall of infinite mirrors, like oh wait a second, this is a bit of a one of those aha moments. Like it was unexpected and it just really occurred to me in this astounding, profound way. Um, yeah. So that's how I experienced it at first. And then it transitioned more into a practice when I was thinking, I just did it the first time, right? I was like, what if I did that right now with me? And then I practiced it right then. And then I thought, I could probably do that more. Um, and then I started kind of breaking down the elements of it again, like the seriousness, the playfulness, the curiosity, and thinking if I were to live life connecting with sort of like those deeper kid versions or pieces of myself, like how do I, if Kid Sean was here today, how would he want to live? What would he be curious about? Like Kid You has all the freedom of an adult, like they always wish they had, like, and still might want to go build a castle out of cardboard or whatever. Like, what would they want to do? You
Right?
know?
Yeah. Uh, like the curiosity, like I have all this curiosity then is like, did you build a fort? Did you, and then, d- hmm. So with this, how did this start to become a pillar in shaping the philosophy that you've started carrying forward? Um, we talked about kind of the aha space of it, but then when did this really become like one of the gifts that you're going to share with the world?
Well, I mean, like it evolved over time. So it became a practice and then kind of a habit. And then I say mantra. It was like it's a Serious Playful Curiosity is just a concept I plug back into every now and again, and it pulls me back, and then I can be playful with the story of Sean. Um, it also developed, I think, like into different types of like as I tried to explain it to other people and they didn't really understand that first example, I came up with other metaphors that they could connect with. So I hang out with a lot of gamers and I was like, do you remember the first time you played like a big game? Like World of Warcraft was one of my first ones. and like you load into the world. And I saw this when I introduced my wife to World of Warcraft. I've seen this when I've introduced other people to World of Warcraft, like my brother. They just want to run around. They're like, "Ooh, look at this over here! Oh, look at that over there!" And everything is brand new and sparkly. And they're like, "Oh, whoa, this tree looks weird. What's going on with that? What happens if I hit this? Oh, here's a bad guy. I'm going to bonk him on the head. What happens if I bonk this thing that's not a bad guy on the head?" And they just keep like playing and playing and playing, and they're having so much fun, and everything just is just so new, um, that I was like, imagine being like that new player, right? And to me, that is what it's like to be a kid in the world. Everything is new. You have so many questions. There's like, what is this? Why does that do that? What does that do that for? And then it's kind of like in the game, the seasoned, experienced players walk up and they see that noob. And they're like, oh, look at this noob. They don't know anything. They're bonking trees and like they're focusing on level 2 sewer rats even though they've already advanced to level 5. This isn't the area for them, right? And they have like all these structured rules of how the game is supposed to be played because they've been there for a while. And either they figured it out or other people taught them that. And so then they're like, "We'll take you under our wing for a moment and show you how to actually play." And then they're like, "Here's how to play the right way." And they introduce all these different things like achievements and quests and all of these levels of complexity and goalposts, right? And then like the player kind of gets lost down this rabbit hole of progression, and there's all these different types of progression they can go towards.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not like there's anything wrong or bad about that. I think that there's still plenty of exploration and curiosity and playfulness as you're hopping down some pre-made bunny trails. Uh, and I think a lot of the fun in games like that is still like the interaction with other people. But I feel like some of that magic, that initial magic, is kind of subdued or lost a bit. Um, and for me, like playing World of Warcraft is a great example because at a certain point, my to-do list of all the different progression things I was focusing on became so long that, and I was focusing on them so much that I wasn't really taking time to just go around and bonk and like hit trees and get like excited about new areas and things. Like I wasn't really doing that as much, or maybe even at all, and was kind of getting burned out on the game because it was very grindy. There's just so much to do, and I was like, oh, I have to do this today. I need to work on these things and these achievements. And for me, that kind of, when I stepped back and saw that in that sort of metaphor, I saw how that mirrored my own life. How
Mm.
life can get very monotonous and grindy, and we can get kind of lost in the repetition of all of the adult things we have to do. And there's all these like goalposts of like, okay, well, I'll be happy when, or someday I'll have these things, or whatever it might be.
Right.
And there's a lot of looking forward rather than really being in this moment and getting to be like just excited that we're in this weird world, you know? So I think last time I touched on the game Newborn Baby Alien.
Sorry. Oh.
Oh no. I thought I turned my phone off. Sorry about that, guys. 10
That was just the
o'clock.
mothership calling.
Yeah, that's all it was.
That's all it
Yeah,
was.
just the mothership. Yeah, so last time we touched on the game Newborn Baby Alien. And for me, like that's one way to plug back into what it's like to be a new player in the world. Like go outside and pretend you've never seen any of this before. And then just like be like, what is this stuff growing out of the ground? It's like green hair. Ow, but it doesn't feel like hair, and just allow
Right.
yourself to have no frame of reference and just have some fun with it.
The newborn baby alien game. I know from our previous conversations that we've had. Um, this is a resonance point that I really embraced when you shared this with me because for so long have I had in my own experience, a feeling like, oh, hey, I was an alien that just landed on Earth. And to your point of the game, um, like hearing you share this gave me a reflection inside. And it was like, hey, I've been stuck. Like I was put in this game. I didn't even know we were playing a game. And then here's all these game
Right.
rules. I don't know how they work. Um, and I think that was some of my earlier parts of curiosity and like trying to be curious about this game. But then as I got older, maybe a little bit more jaded or rebellious throughout my time and my years, but then it was like, what are other ways I can play this game? And this is something when you share or bring about the serious playful curiosity that really hit this resonance with me. And it was like, hey, understanding that I didn't have this framework, but the same drive in this way of like, hey, how can we do things different? So sort of in this way with the newborn baby alien game, um, was there something that really drove that for you, or was that just something that came out of just having fun with this idea?
Yeah, I think it was just having fun with it. I would once I came up with the game analogy, I was like, "What if I do go out in the world and just see it with new eyes? What would that be like?" And I started doing, and I've taught kids a little bit about how to observe the world from the perspective of a scientist, being inquisitive and practicing some of that. Um, it's not like these things were inventions. I think that they were more like reconnections to what was already there and kind of what is innate in a lot of us from childhood. And it's kind of like there's these moments where we can pick up on a little bit of it again. But laying it out plainly as serious playful curiosity, as playing newborn baby alien, as being the new player in the game, um, playing yourself as the action figure, those ways of framing it allowed me to kind of pull back further and play more and get more curious, and allowed things to be like kind of fun and interesting again. What do you feel like you have had anything similar, like an aha moment, or do you feel like there are moments where you plug back into, like, was it always there for you? Um,
For me and my memories or my experiences, I've always felt that I've had a sense of curiosity about the world, and I love exploring and learning things. Um, and curiosity has taken me to some interesting places. At one point in time, I got really curious about plants and went and did plant things professionally for almost 10 years. And I got so interested and like learned all about soil sciences, but also started learning about ecosystems and systems thinking, and really started thinking about things in a larger picture. And that sort of curiosity of like wanting to learn sort of like the microscopic and the macroscopic has always been sort of the strive for me. But um, what really started coming alive for me over the last decade has been really this curiosity about the human experience and wanting to connect with it and share it, because as this curiosity has taken me places, um, one of the things that's really started coming alive for me is that so much of it is really similar and connecting. And I really want to allow curiosity. I want to share curiosity so other people may be able to reflect and have those experiences for themselves of like, oh, hey, like we are connected by these things. And I think that's where curiosity has really been a draw for me over the most recent history in this way. So, did I ever lose it? Did I always have it? I think it's been an innate part of myself, but definitely sometimes life has lifed and I've gotten stuck in the muck and have not always been as present or as curious about situations or things, like even curious how to get out of the stuck that I'm stuck, the mess I'm in or the place I'm stuck at. Sometimes um it's been so much or so loud, I've just been in the story.
I feel like stuck is a hard place for a lot of people to practice serious playful curiosity naturally. And I also feel like it is one of the best places to practice it like to just ask yourself, what is going on here? Like, what is going on in this internal landscape and in the world around me and my circumstances? Like, it's a great place to stop and breathe and allow some space between me and the moment so that I can uh, do a little bit of like a getting curious about, again, like an evaluation assessment, almost kind of like a what's going on inside, what's going on outside. How did I get to this point I'm at right now? What do I like about this? What do I dislike about this? How can I be playful with this sense of story so that this moment that feels hard can contribute to the overall grander story, or can be a turning point, or whatever I want it to be, right? And I can then choose to be playful with it. But getting curious is like the first step. Noticing actually is probably the first step before that. And then getting really curious, like building the curiosity after just noticing more and more and more until I can get to the point to be playful with it and say, what do I want to do with this?
So noticing, um, with noticing, how does one notice? How would I notice? How would you notice? Um, anything. What's that like for you to just notice?
Well, Josh, I mean, you have a noticing
Oh,
game,
I
right?
do.
So like as much fun as it might be for you to ask me, I think you sharing that could be really interesting in this moment. Like Josh, do you want to talk about your authentic relating stuff a little bit?
Sure. So I got during the COVID times, I was really yearning for connection, and I was on this real path of sort of healing and trying to come out of a very stuck space. And I got introduced to this thing called authentic relating, and uh, never heard of it before. And what it was like for me the first time was I didn't realize it was something that I really needed. And authentic relating is interpersonal games that really kind of are they're designed really around exploring edges of oneself, so exploring my own edges, and then witnessing and reflecting those in other people as well. With this, we have games, and since I'm a facilitator, I run game nights and like to hold these games. And one of them, very early on, that was given for me to play, was called the Noticing Game. And the Noticing Game is a great mindfulness game that you can play with yourself and with other people. So, um, where would we like to go to this? Would we like to give people the
Can we
Noticing Game?
Yeah, can we play it right now?
Yeah. Do we just want to do like a couple quick passes, or should I really facilitate and set up a timer?
I'd say just do a couple quick
Okay.
passes. So if you're
Uh,
somewhere like safe and you're listening to this or watching this, then this could be a good moment for you to take a step back, practice the thing that Josh is going to lead us through. I've done this before. I've even facilitated this before.
okay.
Uh, yeah, yeah, and I love the noticing game. So this is a great skill to kind of practice for the first time with us. If you're okay with that.
Yes. So always consent. So if you would, for that invitation, like to play with us. So here's our game. We're going to have three prompts that we're going to run through. And the first prompt we're going to start with is outside of me, I notice. So we're going to start with outside of us first. Um, the next round of questions is going to be inside of me, I experience. And then through our third round, it'll sort of be the choice of the person whose turn it is, whether they want to share what's happening inside for them or what they notice outside of them. So for this,
Point of clarification, real quick. Inside of me, does that mean like bodily feelings? Are we talking emotion? Are we talking thoughts?
so in this way of inside of me, so you could, if you had something in your body that was a pain or a sensation or a feeling. That is something you're experiencing, which could also be something to be curious about. What is that there for? What is it telling you? Does it need something? Do you need something? Uh, Other ways that your and how could I define someone's internal experience either? So this is another place for someone to share what they're experiencing. There isn't a wrong answer. And the more that you play with curiosity, the more that you play this game with yourself and with other people, the more you may find different layers or different days or different moments, different things are alive for you. I
I
hope.
love that there isn't a wrong answer, by the way, because I feel like part of what extinguishes curiosity is this from our sort of that innate place of us being kids is our adults and schools and different people being like, there's one right answer to different things, you know, and being like, not enough of there's no wrong answers here. So I love that there's no wrong answers in this game.
Yeah, that's the great thing about being human in a lot of ways is a lot of times there's not a wrong answer. Not saying that there's no wrong answers ever, but a lot of times it's just how we're doing it and how we're living. So to kind of run through, I'll start off. If I was going to wear a facilitator, I'll start this off. So outside of me, I notice the tapestries on my wall fluttering from the ceiling fan. And Sean.
Now it's my turn. Okay. Outside of me, I notice the there's sort of like these crossed beams on my ceiling that yeah, and there's a total of 9 squares that they make. Oh, uh if you want, listener, you're welcome to pause and share something that you notice.
Outside of me, I notice the big glowy cube to my right.
Outside of me, I notice a calendar that is on February with a picture of it's a very blue picture of maybe a river.
Well, last round for the outside, and then we'll go inside. Outside of me, I notice it looks to be a very beautiful evening here in the Pacific Northwest. Beautiful skies.
Outside of me, I notice that I am pressing up against my desk and that I can feel the drawer handle on my abdomen.
Now we'll flip to inside of me. I experience or notice either way. Um, Inside of me, I'm experiencing a lot of joy sitting here playing authentic relating games, um, doing this podcast.
Hmm. Inside of me, I'm noticing kind of a sense of openness, a willingness to go with the flow of whatever's happening right now.
Inside of me, I'm I'm also experiencing a lot of groundedness in myself. I still feel very rooted and very like in the moment.
Hmm. Inside of me, I'm noticing there's a little bit of tension. I think that there's a bit of that tension that it comes from a piece of excitement, but also a piece of being performative to a degree. You know, here we are on a podcast. And so there's a level of awareness that I will try to probably practice in this space about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it that I might not always have.
Inside of me, there's a question. Am I being performative or am I just being myself?
And inside of me, I'm wondering, I wonder what it would be like if I practiced this awareness of what I'm saying and how I'm saying it more often. And would that be performative or would it be intentional? And am I being performative now or am I being intentional? And where's the line? The questions are just adding up now.
See where curiosity takes us. Uh,
A
so,
curiosity. Yeah.
so for our last round, we'll just do a couple. But this would be our third round through, and then we get to choose inside of me or outside of me. So, inside of me, I'm really experiencing um, and even more like I feel like I'm settling now even more into this. So I'm feeling very calm and very, very in the moment, even more.
Inside of me, I am wondering, reflecting back on Josh's, I've always had this innate sort of thing, and I'm curious now, like even more. But was there the like an aha moment, or were there several aha moments, and what were those? And yeah, anyway, that's where the bunny trail is going in my brain right now.
Inside of me, I also feel delighted to have curiosity expressed about me. So it's sort of like, oh, yes. So I have a little bit of excitement.
Inside of me, I'm reflecting now on how I get curious about people, and there's something there that's coming up from like the curiosity about other people is almost like getting to expand the sense of potential tools and ideas and concepts and ways to experience that I could potentially get to experience or know more about or get more curious about. And so, yeah, I'm noticing that coming up right now.
Last part of this game is a little bit of reflection. So it would be share with your partner. I felt you most when. Sean, I really felt you most when where you started having questions about, am I being performative? Am I just here? That was the one because knowing you a little bit, like that's where I understood that. And then the part where I really, really saw you start to shine was right near the end of this game when you like could take off with like, now I want to know about this. Now I want to like go this way. I want to follow the curiosity. I want to follow the path. And that for me was definitely the moment where like the Sean that I have definitely spent time with, like was really alive in that moment.
What is the prompt again? How do I start it?
I I felt you most when, or I saw you, connected with you most, felt you most. So
Yeah. Okay. I felt you most when I really probably around the same moment, right? And you're like, well, now I'm wondering if I'm being performative, and then that spiraled into the cascade of questions where we could both, I think, just be in the flow of the moment and not thinking too much about the intentions of what was guiding us.
uh, so in a typical game setting, we'd have a group share, and it's basically like, how was that for you? Like, and basically, it's a space of reflection to allow everybody to connect with each other. We could go into that here, or we could allow our curiosity to continue through the show.
I do want to follow some curiosity. That's all
Sure.
right with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would like to know a little bit more about. We start with this noticing, yeah, and then how does that lead to more curiosity for you? Obviously, we're starting with lots of curiosity already. There's an abundance exploding out, right? But how does that lead to more for you? How do you keep it going? Um, how do you do it in authentic relating? How do you do it in life?
An authentic I don't know if they're really separate in some ways. So sometimes it starts out with like, oh, I want to know more about this, or what was that like for you, or you know, just in this moment when Sean, you were illustrating like, oh, am I performative? It gave me a space to also be reflective in myself, to be like, oh, am I performing with fun shirts and like a little bit of animation and excitement? And giving that space of reflection to kind of check in with myself then. Hey, am I being me in this moment? Am I just enjoying this? And in that moment where I did a quick check in with myself, it was like, oh, you're just having fun with this. But um, with that, then it leads to the next thing. Well, if I'm having fun, like how much fun? Why is this fun for me? Like what's alive for this for me? And that's like, oh, and it starts to for me, I call them threads. And I start to follow the thread of where this is going. And that's one big way that it shows up for me, and how I sort of follow curiosity, sort of like a thread, and what's alive in the moment. And sometimes it's also being curious about what's alive in the moment. So if I was inside of me, I'm experiencing a little tension. Maybe that could be a question of like, well, why am I tense? Like why is my shoulder so tense, or what is this? And those are ways that I could use curiosity to sort of follow through with what comes alive for me in those moments.
I love the idea of thinking of threads as things to follow forward. And the reason that that to me is novel or really interesting is because I have thought about pulling at the threads. Um, and I've thought about weaving the threads for the future. But usually when I'm pulling at the threads, I'm pulling at the threads of the past. Like,
Mm,
where does this come from? I wonder when the first time I experienced this was. Where did I learn this? Who taught me this thing? Why do I see things this way? Where did I pick that up? What experiences shaped that? And what stories are alive right now? And also, where did those come from? And were they given to me, or did I experience them? Like I think usually when I think of pulling at threads, I think about pulling backward and pulling into the past to better understand why I'm experiencing the way I'm experiencing right now, how I'm experiencing the way I'm experiencing right now, and even use that as a way to reflect on different ways that other people might be experiencing things differently based on
mhm,
different threads that they might have coming to life for them, or different ways that I might choose to frame things in this moment and get
mhm,
playful with it. But thinking about a thread is just like, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm just going to keep following the thread and like let it go where it goes and just be part of it is really cool. Because again, when I think about threading forward, I think usually about weaving. Like, how am I going to weave my will into, you know, the moment, or towards a future vision or goal, or like a thing I want to create and bring into reality. Um, but you're talking about just like being like, let's just follow the thread and see where it goes. And I love that.
and I can give a lot of resonance, and we'll get to it in other shows, but uh, pulling the thread from the past, and that's always been a big part for me. And that was how this started. And more of a newer philosophy was using this as in a forward motion. Um, might have come out of a dream or something, but it was kind of like in the tale of a weaver or something. That was like, even if you're patching something, there's a thread that you're sewing, or um, so it's just sort of this way that sort of it was a way to empower me. So I use this as curiosity. What happens if I just follow the thread this way instead of like focusing on this? Like, what happens if I go that way? Um, so out of this moment, where is there someplace unexpected that curiosity has taken you?
You mean like during this conversation or in general?
I will leave that to you to answer.
So what's interesting is I was thinking more about pulling the thread while you were just talking. I was listening to your words and thinking about where was a time in my life where I feel like I've done this because I've done it. I think we've all done it. We've all just allowed ourselves at some point, even if it's a long time ago, to follow threads and see where things might go. When I used to go on work conference trips on my own and I didn't have people to go with, I would just take a train or a bus or an elevator ride with strangers, and I would just talk to them. And
Mm,
like, what are you here for this conference? What are you doing here? What kind of thing are you like, And then I would end up going to dinner with total strangers. I would end up going to lunches. I would end up going to museums with people that I met 10 minutes before I got to the museum or at the museum. Like I'd be like, hey, there are people who are like, they're okay with it. They're all right with it. And they just let me go. They're like, yeah. Or they come along with me. Like there's one time I met a lady in an elevator at a conference. And when I met her in the elevator, uh, I, I said, um, so it was one of those like, are you here for this conference? She's like, yeah, I am. And I was like, oh, cool, cool, cool. Where are you headed? And she's like, oh, I'm headed out to dinner. I was like, oh, meeting friends. And she's like, no, I'm here on my own. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Do you know where you're gonna go? She's like, no, I don't know yet. I'm gonna ask the concierge. I was like, I'm gonna do the same thing. It's where I'm going right now. And she's like, no way. And I was like, yeah. I was like, would you be interested in maybe going to like explore a dinner place together? Would that be something you'd be? She's like, yeah, that'd be cool.
yeah.
And she's just like an older teacher lady, and I thought, why not? Like, and we just talked and had these very human moments for a whole dinner. On plane rides, I find is like people are trapped, they're stuck, and weirdly, like I think most of the people who I talk to on planes are like, I never talk to people on planes. This is weird. But it's been so cool, and thank you so much. Like by the end of our plane ride, that's usually the message. I just kind of get curious about them, like, and I don't force it. If they don't want to talk, I'm not going to push them to talk. I don't want to be that person who's like, talk to me, because really, it's an opportunity to get to know somebody if they are open to that. Like you said, consenting. But by the end of the plane ride, usually I have talked to the person next to me about the meaning of life and like how to explore that and what the human experience is like. And by the end of the plane ride, like people have asked me for my phone number and like, no, this was just like a one-off. This is the experience as it was, and here we get to go on our separate paths now. Thank you so much for this journey together. And so when I think about how it's happened in life, usually it's weirdly on a trip. It's almost harder to do at home. I wonder why that is.
Well, that's a good place for curiosity. Is there something, more open or, like less risky in some ways? Also, it just came to me as well. How is it where we feel more open when we are like sort of anonymous
Mm.
in those ways too? How is it that we could be more open with strangers than people we've been around for 10, 20 years in some ways?
I call them camp friends, people who we meet on the internet or in like other spaces in the world where we know it's a finite experience. Because it's like going to summer camp. Like you can kind of reinvent yourself a bit in the moment. You can be very open in the moment. You can kind of be vulnerable because you know it's a temporary experience with a real expiration date. Um, and yet you're not like trying to force the other person to be anything other than who they are because you also know this isn't going to be some long lasting thing. You're just kind of allowing what is to be, uh, and not pushing anything too hard, you know? Or that's how I do it. I don't know. That's what I feel in those moments. So it's kind of like going to summer camp where it just feels different because it is temporary and it is a opportunity for real openness and reinvention and vulnerability.
I think sometimes for myself, it could be like, oh, I may not see you again, so I can just be all of me, not have to worry about a judgment that I have to face on an everyday, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Like, what if I was just me, all of me unguarded?
Um, it's partly been an experience. One of my things that I've been curious about myself was trying to learn to lean into being seen. So, hi, internet. But also part of the reason why I went and got crazy shirts, because you cannot not be noticed in public wearing something like this. So I did this partly to myself, not just for fun. And the kid me was like, hey, I want to wear rad clothes to go to the grocery store. But the other part of it was an exercise in pushing on an edge of being seen. So now, because of this and things like authentic relating, which by the way, authenticity is a practice. It doesn't mean that you just are authentic. It's practicing in each moment. Just fortune cookie in the middle of this podcast. But but uh but leaning into that curiosity and pushing that edge of wanting to be seen is now starting to lead me into some interesting spaces of um, meeting very interesting people, working on interesting projects, or um, just being more open to adventures that could just be more random or um, last minute, or like, hey, you should come do this thing. And it's like, well, I've never heard of it. Let's go. Instead of maybe a million questions about it, just be like, hey, I'll see what it is when I get there.
Yeah, allowing yourself curiosity through experience. Like, okay, I'm not going to ask all the questions. I'm going to allow the experience to be what it is and just get curious in that way of exploring. You said that you started wearing different clothing that allowed yourself to be seen or kind of almost forced it to a degree. Like, what was it that prompted that? Number one, but number two, like how did you find your way of being seen as you are seen now? So you could have been seen in a million ways, like why this way? Did you and how did you get there? Like, did you experiment? Did you just like, you know, I'll let you just take it from there.
Yeah. I think, I don't want to say I think, I feel that I had spent a lot of time sort of masking and hiding to not be seen, and my own fear of judgment and fear of being abandoned. And it was a way to also hide, sort of like a camouflage in a way of being very, um, I don't want to call it boring, but it's just very invisible, you know? And as I started questioning things about myself, wanting my life to be different as well. Like, oh, I don't want it to be this all way all the time. What can I do that's different? And I had lost kind of a bunch of weight, and then it sort of gave me a little bit of confidence to be a little bit loud with some clothing choices. I felt more comfortable and more confident to wear like something a little more loud. And in then doing so, the reactions I got in public were not like side eye, um, so much as in more people's reactions were positive. Like you could see people like kind of enjoyed it, or people would come up to you and be like, "Oh my goodness, like that's a crazy shirt. I love it." And in those moments, then that creates those bids for connection as well, and sort of those bids for connection then can allow, if there's curiosity, to follow with that person as well. So that's why a lot of times like nice compliments or something are can be a nice way to you know move with someone. So like someone's got like a rad like bag, like a really cool bag, or their shoes are awesome or something. Um, complimenting those things that kind of are representing maybe what they're trying to share about what they feel about themselves is sometimes a nice way to go about it. Just for, I don't want to advice give, but just don't comment on bodies. Just comment on like the things that are equal to expression. And I found that to be a much better way to go about it.
I like that. And I guess part of my question was I was asking really for personal, selfish reasons because I I have been like I want to go out and find clothes that really speak to me, and I go out and I'm like there I don't feel any of that. I don't feel any of what I'm seeing, is the thing. And so I don't know, do you just like did you just experiment, or did you see something and automatically you were like, that's the one. I
So
I have to wear that shirt. Like, how did you connect with whatever it was? How did you find the things? Cuz I feel like I can do a lot of good expression and a lot of good sort of exploring my potential interests and hobbies and following those threads. But when it comes to the threads, that I'm wearing, I am not very good at figuring out, like, how do I want to play with expression after a lifetime of kind of being told to stay in a box.
some of it was little things. So very first off is I had some just t-shirts, but then I had like some really like some artwork or something that I really liked. So my friends call me Jarsh Bear, and bears like bear rar is sort of a theme for me. So I had some shirts that I got that had like bears and mountains on them, and I have some shirts with like moons and owls on them, and that was like the first toe dipping into like, oh, I'm gonna get some stuff that has like what I really like to kind of express my personality. And in previous lifetimes, I have been different people. And I was like, oh, hey, I would like to play with some of these like shirts that will glow under UV light and kind of like crazy patterns and colors. And I bought one or two, and I wore them. And at first I wore them out to like a show, like a music show, or I wore it to a thing or a party where it was like acceptable. And then like one day I was like, I'm wearing this to the grocery store. And I just started like wearing it as everyday clothing, and it's sort of taken off. The other piece to this is a friend of mine. So Allison, if you're listening, she had given me some advice, and she was like, hey, the clothes that you wear on your outside should reflect who you are on the inside. And she always wears space clothes. Like everything is galaxy, like coat, shirt, shoes, pants. It's all galaxy. And I took that with me, and I just took that thread forward. Which, by the way, I did find it funny that you made a thread joke in the threads.
So, I mean, like, okay, something to generalize from what you just said here for me that I'm going to take with me is, if you're not sure how to do it, just kind of start doing it. Start thinking about the things that reflect what maybe you as a kid wanted, or you right now kind of wants, but doesn't know how to really do it, and start doing it in some safe spaces, is what you said. Like, start doing it in the places where you feel like, it's not high stakes. It's not that crazy or scary of a place to do it. It's a totally normal place to do it. If you're like, I want to dress up like a vampire every day, then like go to places where parties where people are doing that, right? Or like to clubs where that's the theme. Go to the goth spaces or wherever, like go to the places where you feel like you're finding your people, and at least in the sense of the thing you're trying to practice. Um, like for me, the things that I usually focus on are more about conceptual stuff. So like, or experiencing stuff. So Kung Fu is something that I started in the last year, and really has changed my life in some beautiful ways. But it was really like I've always wanted to do this. I came up with all these stories as to why I can't do that as an adult. I'm just going to do it, right? Like, who cares if I suck? It doesn't matter. I'm just going to go do it. And so I found a place where I felt like I could start practicing it safely, kind of without a lot of other people being present, and not, my self consciousness could exist there. Um, and didn't really even have to show up because it just was a safe place to practice, and then started expanding more and more and more, to the point that like now I don't mind just going out to a park and practicing some qigong, tai chi, xing yi, whatever. And to me, it's just like I don't really care anymore. I don't care about that anymore. But at the beginning, yeah, I did. And so I love that idea of like, start safe, start somewhere that feels like you can extend and stretch and get a little uncomfortable without feeling too scared or exposed or whatever. And if you're the kind of person who can just like jump into the deep end, go for it, like dive in. But sometimes with the stuff that's really hard, and it could be something different for everybody. It could be clothes, or it could be an experience, or it could just be like, I want to speak more. I want to talk more in a conversation. I want to share more of myself. I want to know more of myself and I want to explore more of myself. Finding those safe places, those safe people to do that with, I think that that's a great tip. I never would have thought of that coming into this episode. And I think that it's an awesome takeaway.
Maybe we should, maybe this would be homework that we could assign out to the listeners. Hey, you out there.
I think so. Starting with this episode, I think we're going to try
Hang with
to,
us on this.
yeah, we'll see. We're being playful. We're being
Yeah.
curious. We're just exploring. So we're going to try to start giving some homework. And I think that that would be a cool homework assignment is go get curious about something about yourself you've always wanted to try or do or wear or whatever, and go find a safe place for it. That's one homework assignment. Uh, any other things that we've done today that would be good homework assignments?
Taking the curiosity game and using that to maybe do, even if it's by yourself, but a daily check-in, maybe use those questions as journaling prompts for yourself, sorry. So again, I'll repeat those. So start with outside of myself, I notice, and give yourself a minute or two. You don't have to do it forever. You could play this game as long as you want. So no time limit. There's no wrong way to play this game. But maybe give yourself about 2 minutes to start saying outside of me, I notice, and really checking in with your environment outside of you. And then moving to the inside of me, I notice, or inside of me, I'm experiencing, and use that to just kind of journal. Um, those could be great ways to meet yourself in those ways of using those as journal prompting. Also, loosely, you could use these to also try to deepen connection with a friend or someone super close to you. You could pass back and forth and see where curiosity takes you between the spaces with each other. Might be fun. It might be exciting.
I actually play the noticing game almost every time that we go out for a sunset when the weather's nice, and we have like a little fire table in the backyard. We all go sit down and we play the noticing game to warm us up, and then as the sun is setting, we make our final wishes of the day, or like set an intention or something like that. And my kids do it. It's a lot of, kind of like you said, connection with self and with each other, and it helps us understand the landscape of what's going on in the small community that exists in our family. It's really a cool just opportunity to plug in, again, to yourself, to other people, but also just like to your full sense of experience and to reality as you perceive and understand it. Um, and to that point, I would add another potential homework assignment of playing newborn baby alien. Like, you can do it in traffic. There's not a wrong place really to play newborn baby alien. Maybe don't always play it out out loud if you're not in a safe place, but if you don't care, then go for it. But newborn baby alien, just look around, imagine that you've never seen any of this before, you've never experienced this before. You were just born today in this planet, into this human experience, into your meat suit, into your adult form now. And like suddenly you're very curious about, what is all of this? There's so many textures and colors and shapes. And what is that over there? And how does this work? And who made that? And what prompted them to do that? And just like really dive into the details and savor the details. Find the little things that maybe every day on a day-to-day basis we just go by, allowing them to be there, but we don't really notice them because we've seen them a million times before, and allow them to be new and exciting and interesting. Let yourself fall in love with those little pieces of the world through curiosity.
Really, a thing I really enjoy about that is the allowing yourself to experience it, or step outside of yourself and allow it to be a new thing, like a new experience. Um, when you were talking about sunsets, I love sunsets as well. I think that's one thing you and I both definitely have a love of, is like the sunsets, and each sunset is its own unique sunset. no sunset is ever the same. So in some ways, as we're sunsetting the show, um, that's always been a takeaway for me is like each one of those is unique and different, and just relishing and sort of celebrating in that moment, um, to me is a great takeaway. It's something that like I appreciate out of this.
And following the thread of that thought, one so again, we haven't rehearsed. If you don't know, we don't rehearse these shows. We just come up with it on the fly. This is just what comes live to us in the moment. And so like these some of these assignments were just are reflective of the conversation as it evolved. And one of the things that came out of today's conversation was threads. So thread back, thread forward. Following the thread intuitively, allowing it to just be what it is, and just exploring it with curiously, like what and now what and now what, right? So maybe take your thread of what's going on right now and ask yourself, get curious about what happened in the past that makes this thread seem this way, or gives it this shape, or why I feel the way I feel about this. Maybe looking at the thread of what's happening right now and allowing that to be, and just following it kind of blindly but curiously, and safely. Uh, uh, like allowing yourself to just be in the moment, in the flow of whatever is happening, and to release expectations, release judgment, and just allow yourself to follow the thread of the moment and see where it takes you. And then the thread of the future, like asking yourself, if I were to weave a thread, how could I be playful with that? How could I step back and take that position of the kid playing with the action figure or the person playing the video game, and allow myself to sort of reset and decide how I want to be playful with the next part of the story, or the next way that I experience this.
And this just popped into my head, um, while you were sharing that. We were talking about threading forward. Um, your future self is watching you right now through memories. So, what do you want to do with this? Where do you want to go?
Right.
That's good questions.
And soon I'm going to write this down. We are going to talk about visualization. So how do you essentially set an intention for a vision for the future, a future you, and then how do you draw yourself to that reality and allow it to also be fluid, not like this constant, but something that can evolve as you evolve. Um, Thank you for getting curious with us today.
Thank you so much.
And I'm curious to see how this curiosity and these exercises give shape to your experience moving forward. So if you do the homework, wherever you are experiencing this, if there's a comment section, whatever there might be, if there's a way for you to interact, I would love to get to hear your stories. Um, I would love to get, and I will read them all if I can. Uh, I would love to get to hear the stories of how curiosity is igniting in your life, how you're practicing it. Are you coming up with your own sort of homework? Are you coming up with your own ways to get curious? What are those? Do you have some tricks? I would love them. So I am so curious to see what shape this gives to your experience too. If you're out there listening, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I'll follow up a second thanks. And I don't have anything that would add more to close the show than what you have just said, Sean, because I'll read them all. And I love hearing anybody's tips, tools, or what even is exciting them. What's alive? So please share.
And just like those people I meet on airplanes, I kind of devour other people's stories a little bit, you know? Like to me, that is a way to expand without having to live the experience, is getting to hear other people's experiences, getting to kind of see through their eyes a little bit, getting a taste for how like life can be different, and kind of giving me more variation and range that I can play with in my own playfulness. So I love getting to share, and also getting to receive and be shared with, so that I can, for me, like that gives even a grander shape to my own experience. So thank you for, if you choose to interact in that way. And whether or not you do, thank you for showing up and for listening.
Thank you, everybody.
This has been How to Human. See you
Bye.
next time.